Turks, Jigger's out and Kasperi's back. Casper is back. You know, in fact. All right, Casper, good to have you back.
Thank you, it's great to be back. Great to dive into all of this super encouraging news.
Oh yeah, I know. And that,
I mean, just story after story today.
Good news gushing out.
Yeah.
As it often does. All right, so we've got unfortunate Trump news later in the show. We got a segment called Battle of the Dumbest. You're gonna enjoy that. But first we start with Democratic foils, if you will.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'm very disappointed that we're not going with the original $3.5 trillion, which was very transformative.
That was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi making concessions on the reconciliation bill to corrupt corporate Democrats in the Senate. Of course, in regard to the reconciliation bill that originally was supposed to be around $5 to $6 trillion. Progressives negotiated down to $3.5 trillion. And now Pelosi, during this press conference, makes it abundantly clear that the final result of the bill, if it happens to pass, will be even less than the $3.5 trillion, which means that incredibly important provisions, popular provisions in that bill, will likely get cut. Let's hear a little more of what she had to say.
In the family section of it, the transformative nature of the Biden child tax credit, child care and universal pre-K really go together. That's sort of they go together. They're part of the same, meeting the same need. Issues that relate to home health care. There's certain things that we're still talking about a couple of $1 trillion, but it's not, it's more, it's much less. So mostly we would be cutting back on years and something like that. But those are decisions that we have to.
Programs, do you think?
Excuse me?
Would you have to drop one of those programs?
Well, we hope not. We hope not. But we have to make sure we have a bill, which I also said is that we have to have something that will pass the House and pass the Senate.
So of course she mentions that it needs to pass the House and pass the Senate because you have two, and of course, very possibly more corporate Democrats in the Senate who are not in favor of the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill because their corporate donors aren't in favor of the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. So they're really the ones that are holding this bill up and demanding cuts to it. Now, Pelosi mentioned it's still likely to be a couple $1 trillion. I'll tell you where she got that number from, but first, some more details in regard to the communication that Pelosi has had with members of Congress recently. In fact, just last night, in a letter to Democrats Monday night, Pelosi had suggested the cost-cutting efforts would come in the form of eliminating some of the proposed benefit provisions altogether. She promoted the idea of putting the focus more squarely on child benefits and efforts to tackle climate change. So look, as you could tell from that answer she gave, she didn't really specify what would get cut from the legislation. But the fact that we're having this discussion in the first place is maddening, especially when you consider that every single provision in that bill, universal child care, mandatory paid family leave, 2 years free community college, these are things that poll incredibly well. These are things that constituents of both Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin overwhelmingly support, but they don't care because the donors' desires speak louder to these lawmakers than what their own constituents want.
So there's a couple of different issues here, but am I the only one who thinks that she sounds fairly incoherent?
It's not that she sounds incoherent, it's that as Speaker of the House, she has difficulty speaking. I mean, she's constantly stuttering and can't get her point out clearly. And I think that is a problem because you need someone who can message what the bill includes and basically rally for it, like go out there and make a case for it. And honestly, Nancy Pelosi fails to do that. And she gets asked about that later and gets snippy with a reporter. I'll go to that in a minute, but Cenk, what else do you think?
So look, I love the fact that you pointed out that speaker is in her title. This is part of why Democrats don't do as well as Republicans. So, we make fun of Trump because he says absurd things, but a lot of people relate to him because he speaks like a normal person. And he doesn't go into climate change and child care credit and trillions, but less. Like, what was that? What the hell was that? And so if you don't have a person who can deliver a message clearly, well, then obviously you're not gonna do as well in politics. That's not hard to understand. And so, look, I don't wanna beat her up. If she was a normal person, like, she's in her, I think she's in her 80s by now, but at least late 70s. And so, hey, I've got empathy for that. But wait, you're supposed to represent all Democrats. So this is not the role where you're like, oh, you know what? You're still hanging in there as a dentist in your late 70s, but I appreciate what you're doing. No, this is not about appreciation. And by the way, I can live with all that too. Well, I can't. You really need an effective communicator in that role. But on top of that, everybody in DC is like, she's the greatest. No, I can't live with the gaslighting. I can't live with it. No, you're forcing me to say she's incoherent. No one can understand what she's saying. She jumps from thought to thought, never finishes her sentences, let alone saying something like, here, I'll give you an example. Let's say that I'm doing that press conference. We've got child tax credit in here. It is at 80% popularity. Why aren't we passing it? Why is every Republican against it? I want you to, all of you reporters out here, okay? Now I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I would imagine that you would normally ask a Republican, why are you against a program that has 80% popularity, including the majority of Republican voters? Why are they against their own voters? Now what have you done? How long did that take? 15 seconds? You've now made the Republicans be on a massive defense, and you've also put the reporters on defense, thinking, wait, have I not done my job? Have I not held the Republicans accountable? Now, of course, she would never do this, but if you actually wanted to get the bill passed, remember the Republicans are irrelevant. She would put Sinema and Manchin on blast. Oh my God, they're in my own party, I have to go, I protect them at all costs. No, you're supposed to protect us, the voters, at all costs. So if I was in her role, I would do a real job. I would say, look, Sinema and Manchin are holding this up. Everybody knows it. They probably represent a couple more corporate Democrats in the Senate. Let's keep it real, right? And why are they doing what they're doing? Here, let me show you a donor of theirs. Boom, you put up how much money that Manchin is getting from fossil fuel industry. You put up how much money Kristen Sinema just got from the drug companies for her role in eviscerating the bill. And go, now that's why they're doing it.
I know, but Pelosi would be telling on herself, because remember, while Pelosi is not very effective in terms of getting legislation passed, while Nancy Pelosi is not an effective communicator, one thing that she is effective on is raising money for the Democratic Party. That's the reason why you have Washington constantly fawning over her, because she raises money. You think she's gonna call out those donors?
No, of course not.
Here.
No, of course not, Anna. And so, but that's part of my point. Guys, don't let the media gaslight you. It is not normal for there to be this level of corruption, and for the Speaker of the House to pretend to be in favor of a $3.5 trillion bill, but actually help gut it and cut it in nearly in half, so that the corporate donors of other Democrats can get richer off of the US taxpayers. They make it, the national media in this country makes it seem like it's normal. Oh, of course. And don't say the donors. Don't say the donors, pretend they have concerns about the voters, even though every poll shows that their own voters want it. They're gaslighting all of us. It's all theater, just understand that.
Now, what's also discouraging is the fact that President Joe Biden has already agreed to cutting the funding for that bill. So addressing House Democrats earlier this month, Biden suggested lawmakers should shoot for spending in the $2 trillion range instead. And so naturally, reporters who want to ask decent questions want to know, what do you plan on cutting from the bill? I have a prediction on what it'll be, but watch Speaker Pelosi get real snippy with a reporter who asked, I think, a logical question.
What would be the first to go to get the price of the package down?
You must be kidding. That's a negotiation. That's not something that I would be announcing here, and I don't even know what that would be. No, what would be the first go? What would be probably in timing, that the timing would be reduced in many cases to make the cost lower. But it only would be in such a way that does not undermine the transformative nature of it, because some of it has to have enough money in order to have sustainability that can be counted on.
I mean, I don't even know what the last part of that answer was, but no, the reporter is not kidding. The reporter asked a logical question about what Democratic leadership proposes to cut from the reconciliation bill, responding with "you must be kidding" is ridiculous. And then the other part of it is, I won't be answering that during this press conference. Then why are you doing a press conference? What do you think people want to know about? I don't understand why you would hold a press conference if you're not going to get specific about what's happening and what Democratic leadership proposes to do to get that reconciliation bill passed. And my prediction, Cenk, is that since Pelosi has really used the child care provisions included in the reconciliation bill for her own, branding and her attempts at building a legacy for herself, I think the first thing that's likely to go is the expansion of Medicare, including the negotiations for lowering drug prices under Medicare. I think they're gonna do away with that, especially considering how powerful the healthcare and pharmaceutical lobby is.
Yeah, so let me tackle that one by one. Why do you do a press conference? We're not naive about it. It's not like a Democrat or Republican do a press conference because they believe in the freedom of the press and they want to make sure the press gets to ask them tough questions. No, they do it to put out their own points and to emphasize things that they think will be helpful in the process.
None of that was helpful.
Yeah, so why didn't you do it? Like if you come out there and go, why'd you do the press conference? If you yell at the reporters for asking you perfectly logical questions, why'd you do the press conference? And so she said there, the timing would be reduced. I know what she's talking about. I don't know that any regular person watches a press conference like that. But if you did, I don't know that you would understand what the hell she's talking about. What she means is it's a 10-year timeline, but if we make it a 6 or 7 year timeline, well then instead of costing $3.5 trillion, it might cost around the $2 trillion that Joe Biden says now that he wants as a compromise. But we would get to keep all the programs. You see how I just explained it really clearly in 10 seconds? She was, we reduced the timing, but we're not in your caucus. I mean, we understand it because it's our job to understand it, but the average American that you're trying to speak to does not understand it at all. Why are you doing the press conference if you're not trying to persuade voters to go in a certain direction, or you're totally incapable of it? I know, by the way, any comment like this in DC would get us kicked out of whatever room we're in. They would say, how dare you say that about the Speaker of the House? We're not under any obligation to kiss the ass of the powerful. She's not good at this. Certainly on the public speaking part, there's no question. You'd have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to say, she nailed it. My God, I came out of that press conference thinking, man, the Democrats' position is so good. I can't wait to support them.
Right.
Okay, and then on the issue of taking questions or not, other Democrats are beating up on Sinema, rightfully so, for not answering the question of, well, okay, if you wanted the bill to be a lower number, what do you want to take out? That's a great question that other Democrats are pushing forward. Pelosi gets asked the same question. She's like, oh, how dare you, you insubordinate reporter. Don't you know you work for me? Which then leads us to the next clip.
The next clip is what really caught my attention because some recent polling indicates that the reconciliation bill as a whole it's not that it doesn't poll well, it's that most Americans don't even know what's in it, right? If you take the provisions separately and poll Americans on it, the provisions are incredibly popular. So the reporter here is talking about a specific poll that shows that the majority of Americans don't even know what's in the reconciliation bill and asks, again, a logical, legitimate question. Watch how Pelosi handled the answer.
Speaker, our latest CBS News poll shows that only about 10% of Americans describe themselves as knowing a lot of specific things that are in the reconciliation package and that the majority don't know anything at all. So do you think you need to do a better job at messaging and going forward, how do you sell this if ultimately you have to?
Well, I think you all could do a better job of selling it, to be very frank with you, because every time I come here, I go through the list. Family medical leave, climate, the issues that are in there. But it is true, it is hard to break through when you have such a comprehensive package. But as we narrow it down and put it out there.
There are two different types of media figures when it comes to news. You have straight news journalists who are just supposed to report the facts. And then you have people like us who, yes, we share the details of various stories with you, but then we share our analysis and opinion. It is not the job of the reporters who were there listening to that press conference to go out and do political activism on behalf of the Democratic Party. It's not their job. The Democrats have to sell the bill. And when you have a Speaker of the House who can't do public speaking, right? The most basic part of her job, you're gonna have some issues. And that's what the issue is here.
Yeah, but it really betrays her sense of entitlement with the press that, to be fair to her, actually does exist. She assumes you guys all work for me. Every time Democratic leadership says something, mainstream media repeats it like it's true. So why haven't you sold it better for me? I told you to go sell it, and you haven't done your jobs. She, upbraids them. And
ridiculous.
Because that's her baseline assumption. That's what's in her head. That's why she said it, and that has been generally true. And so that our press sucks. They were fine in that press conference. They actually asked a couple of mildly challenging questions, but it's. That thought to her is in her mind because that is how the press operated for the last 40 years. Now, then she says, look, every time I come out here, I go through the whole laundry list. No, you didn't, and you didn't do it there. And by the way, you don't have to go through the whole laundry list. It's a big bill. You don't have to get into provision number 37. Okay, here, again, we're always constructive in our critique. So here's what you could do instead. We're gonna provide childcare for you guys. It's got 80% popularity. Who doesn't want it? Only 20% don't want it. I don't know why they don't want it. Maybe they don't have kids. But everybody who's got kids loves this provision. Even people who don't have kids love this provision. Well, you know what else we got in there? We're gonna lower drug prices. Who wants higher drug prices? Raise your hands if you want higher drug prices. And we're gonna do that because we're gonna hold those drug companies accountable to look out for you. Boom, I just listed the 2 most popular provisions. I can keep going, but that's enough. Then people love it because then they think it's about those 2 things. And they're in there, and they're huge parts of it. So why don't you just do that instead of the timing would be reduced, child tax, child welfare.
She's paid not to. It's that simple. She's paid not to.
Yeah, and well, to that point, Anna, you said the first thing they're likely to take out is the Medicare provisions. Of course, why? The #1 donors in Washington by a lot are drug companies. And so way more than oil companies, way more than banks. And so Pelosi has sent her chief of staff before to go tell the drug companies, don't worry, we're always on your side. Okay, that was reported by The Intercept a while back. Sinema takes money from them, Manchin takes money from them, and we know that that's the one that they're gonna take out. How do we know all these things in advance? We've told you 100 things by now. I even told you months ago that they were gonna land at around 2.1 trillion. Looks like they're gonna land at around 2.1 trillion. How do we know that? Because it's actually not that hard. It's not that complicated. All you gotta do is follow what they're saying based on what the donors have told them. But the media's like, oh, this is indecipherable. I can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on here. I can. It used to be a thing that journalists cared about. It was called follow the money. You follow the money and you find out how this stuff works.
All right, well, one person who did follow the money is Jonathan Larson over at TYT Investigates, who has another bombshell to share with you today in regard to the National Prayer Breakfast. So we're gonna take a break and we'll come back with that story and more. See you then.
All right, we call ourselves Home Progressives. Get a load of this. Ilhan Omar on the show tomorrow, live on the Young Turks. Nina Turner doing Power Hour on Thursday, and so much more. I hope you caught the Michael Cohen interview where he was dishing dirt on how Donald Trump actually acts. So make sure that you check that out. Then a fun little programming note for you guys. In October, we're trying to reach some goals on Twitch. and at 6,200 Twitch subscribers, Jordan Yule, Ariana Vega, Brett, and Brooke will take on the world's spiciest chip challenge live on air. That's the Pocky Chip Challenge, one chip challenge. Oh no, why am I on there? If we reach 6,600 subscribers, I will breathe fire. I will eat the chip. I really, really don't want to, but I hope you guys make me, but I'm genuine when I say I don't want to. I don't like things that are spicy, let alone that. Anyways, you'll get to see me suffer. It'll be fun for everybody. Okay, now let's go to the members. Sina Hogaboom writes in, oh Nancy, you are so concerned. Let's just not do anything. Akim Taser writes in, so are we fighting for anything at this point? These are all good questions. No More Trigonometry says, Pelosi isn't a coherent communicator or fighter unless she's putting her heel on Progressive's neck or fundraising for that sweet, sweet donor money. That's true. When she's in front of the donors, she must be, Clarence Darrow or something, right? She gives a mean speech in front of donors because she's collected over $700 million in donations in her career. Gabby Marita says, a reporter asked Nancy Pelosi a tough question. Prepare the seismographs to detect a collective eruption from the aristocrats on Morning Joe tomorrow morning. I know, they really are. That's a great way of putting it, Gabby. A lot of those television pundits are total aristocrats. New members on YouTube, I Plus Robotech and Neo the One. Well, Neo's now Young Turk, it's over. Okay, there's no way we can lose now. We solved the matrix. Anyways, hit the join button below on YouTube. If I just found out if it's you're on a desktop, it's right there. If you're on a mobile phone, you just go a little further down. It's right there, but you got to scroll down a little bit. All right, Crystal McKenzie writes in the super chat. This is a bad clip of Pelosi. I wanted to replace her when AOC and others were coming in, but she has power. She's going like RBG. She needs to get out while we can put someone we want in. But these folks are never going to relinquish power. Later in the show, we have a story about Chuck Grassley. He's running for re-election. He's 88. He's 88 and running for re-election.
It's ridiculous.
And they can get away with it because the donors are like, oh, Chuck's been a great investment all these years. Nancy Pelosi, man, she gives us great return on investment.
Dude, why do people want to work that much? Like, it's not really work.
It's greed for power.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, go.
Who funds the National Prayer Breakfast? This right-wing group of people who have this annual prayer breakfast that unfortunately is also attended by some congressional Democrats and Democratic presidents. Well, Jonathan Larson over at TYT investigated this and found out that Franklin Graham is secretly bankrolling the National Prayer Breakfast. The son of breakfast co-founder Billy Graham, Franklin Graham is openly anti-LGBTQ, anti-Islamic, and partisan. He's also, a source close to the family says, the only source of revenue for the National Prayer Breakfast aside from ticket sales. So why is he doing it? And more importantly, why is he bankrolling the National Prayer Breakfast secretly? That we don't know, you can only speculate, but Graham single-handedly enabled the family to keep its breakfast operations intact this year. Because the 2021 breakfast was remote due to COVID, the family had zero revenues from guest registration fees, which in some cases can be as much as $500 per person. Now, how does he carry out this funding? Well, he does it through two different organizations that he runs. Two groups that Graham runs are the Samaritan's Purse, one of the world's largest relief organizations, and the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Samaritan's Purse filings up through 2019 show repeated annual donations to the family. The family runs the National Prayer Breakfast, of course. The BGEA changed its legal status in 2014. 2014, calling itself a church, and so it no longer has to disclose its filings, but previous records show that it too gave to the family. For years, the BGEA tax filings included $20,000 earmarked for the National Prayer Breakfast, and reported that the organization attends the breakfast on behalf of the ministry. Samaritan's Purse gave the same amount annually, bumping it up to $25,000 in 2015, and then in 2016, doubling that amount to $50,000, which it has given every year since. Now, why is this a big deal? Why do we want to know who's bankrolling the National Prayer Breakfast? Well, if you might have missed some of the previous reporting on this story, just know that the National Prayer Breakfast serves as an opportunity for both lobbyists and foreign figures to meet with congressional lawmakers and essentially go into these breakaway rooms after the breakfast to do lobbying that goes unnoticed because this is all kind of done in secret. And then there's also the fact that this organization goes to other countries, essentially pushing for laws that would be incredibly harsh, incredibly cruel to various groups of people, including members of the LGBT community. In fact, Forbidden Colors, an LGBTQ advocacy group, warned congressional Democrats last month in an intelligence brief that their participation in prayer breakfasts lends credibility to far-right movements. The European Parliamentary Forum on Sexual and Reproductive Rights reported this summer that right-wing activists are staging prayer breakfasts to help expand their networks. So a good example is what they did in Uganda in essentially pushing for the punishment of execution toward gay individuals in that country. So that's the kind of disgusting behavior they're taking part in. Why Democrats would want to be part of this is certainly questionable.
Joe Biden just gave a speech at the National Prayer Breakfast. The Clintons have, so they are told, oh no, you got to attend this, or maybe they love it. Maybe they like the agenda that is being pushed by these guys, and no Democrat should ever attend this. Once we put it to people like Ro Khanna and Ted Lieu and they found out what was happening, they're like, oh no, we don't want any part of that. And they're not going anymore. So it turns out Graham funds the whole thing, plus the ticket sales, that's it. So, well, let me just tell you a little bit about Graham, okay? So number one, he said, I think the president's, referring to Obama, I think the president's problem is that he was born a Muslim. Well, first of all, that's not true. Second of all, it's not a problem. He just said, and he doesn't take it back at all, if you're born a Muslim, that's a problem. You're gonna go attend this event financed by this monster? He then went on to say that he was concerned about President Obama because he was letting the Muslim Brotherhood infiltrate the US government. That's not only hateful, it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He's putting this prayer breakfast on as a show so that he can get idiot Democrats to show up, take pictures with them, and then he can go around going, oh no, even the Democrats support our agenda. So what else does he have on his agenda? Of course he's against same-sex marriage. He says when Buttigieg was talking about how he was openly gay, he's like, that's not anything to be proud of, it's a sin. And he said it's embarrassing. Now, there is one public official that he was in favor of, other than, of course, Donald Trump, who he loved. Now, Donald Trump has cheated on his wife. He's done all these terrible things. He's done the sexual assaults, etc. But
no big deal. It's not like evangelicals care about that,
yeah, he's like,
right?
family values. I mean, come on, they were porn stars. What was he gonna do? Not have sex with them while his wife was delivering? Okay, come on, man. You think these guys are moral in any way, shape, or form? This is a joke. By the way, he's pro-life and was a staunch advocate of the Iraq war that killed hundreds of thousands of civilians, including a ton of children. Children were killed, innocent children were massacred in Iraq, and Graham applauded, yeah! Hey, after all, they were born Muslim.
I mean, he is pro-life though.
Yeah,
he's pro-life.
Pro-life, okay. No, these guys are filled with hate. One last thing, I know you can go on forever with Graham. So he's in favor of conversion therapy, which is absolutely brutal. And I think I told you the one public official he's in favor of is Vladimir Putin. Now, why? Why is he in favor of Putin? Because he's passed anti-gay laws. You're gonna go support this guy's agenda by attending this prayer breakfast, as I've seen all these schmuck Democrats do my entire life? will you, for God's sake, read something? We already broke the stories. This is now the latest in our exclusives, and this shows who's funding it. Is anybody gonna really argue that Franklin Graham is nonpartisan and we're just going to pray with him and hold hands in a way that doesn't hurt the LGBT community, the Muslim community, or 1,000 other communities? You can't make that claim with a straight face. Any Democrat that continues to go is basically saying, I secretly don't like gay people or Muslims either, and I get to pretend that I do while actually going and holding hands with these guys and giving them credibility that they use in America and abroad to make sure they pass anti-gay laws and discriminate in a horrible way. I love that we broke these stories, and I don't think any Democrat should ever go to that event again.
All right, well, let's move on to some money laundering that's taking place here in the United States. And the reason why it can take place is because we have incredibly lax regulations on real estate money laundering. So, a new report from Global Financial Integrity shows that billions of dollars a year are laundered in the United States through US real estate. And lax regulations allow for it to happen completely unchecked. Now, researchers from the Global Financial Integrity Organization said at a minimum, $2.3 billion has been laundered through real estate over the last 5 years. And given that GFI only studied cases already reported or adjudicated, it ventured that the total value of property purchased with laundered money is even more staggering. And that certainly does not surprise me. This is one of the issues that I've been paying a lot of attention to because there's a lot of foreign investment in US real estate. Now, whenever you push back against it, people think that there's like some bigoted agenda, but no. Oftentimes what you'll see, especially in these all cash purchases in US real estate that foreigners do not want to actually live in, is money laundering. It happens all the time, and it happens in a lot of big cities, but now we're learning that it's also happening in small towns as well. So a United Nations agency in 2020 pegged the annual amount of money laundered worldwide at 800 billion, or between 2 and 5% of the global gross domestic product. Now, the recently released Pandora Papers also shed light on just how widespread money laundering really is and how the United States is really the top destination for dirty money. Watch.
We're looking at about 12 million documents from 14 different service providers. These are law firms, firms that set up secret offshore accounts for people in multiple jurisdictions. The British Virgin Islands, Belize, Samoa. These documents, for the very first time, is actually showing the US as a tax haven itself. We're talking about some of the most famous people in the world that are in these documents. Presidents, prime ministers, government ministers, the King of Jordan, a number of very high-profile Russian clients, people that are very close to Vladimir Putin. We're seeing them buying real estate. We're seeing them trading in shares, using offshore companies. They're buying houses, cars, artworks. I guess it mostly demonstrates that the people that could end the secrecy of offshore, could end what's going on, are themselves benefiting from it, so there's no incentive for them to end it.
Now, there are some money laundering laws in the United States, right? But even the laws that exist are pretty weak. When it comes to real estate, though, there are fewer money laundering laws involved, which is why Biden has decided to do a little bit, but it certainly doesn't go far enough. So Biden is urging the Treasury Department to revoke the regulatory exemption for real estate agents who are not currently required to identify their ultimate clients or to report suspicious activity. Remember, there's a lot of this money laundering happening, all of this real estate being purchased through shell companies. Now, the United States is the only major economic member of the G7 that does not impose anti-money laundering rules on real estate professionals. I've got more details for you in just a second, but Cenk, you know this really grinds my gears.
Yeah, of course. Well, it should bother all of us for a number of reasons. One, of course, it's illegal, and if our government isn't doing anything about it, it's outrageous, and of course it helps the wealthy, but specifically wealthy criminals that are looking to steal money from their home countries and bring it over here to hide it here. In fact, by the way, Trump Tower was a huge place where the Russian mafia would launder their money. There was at least 13 people that were publicly linked to the Russian mafia that bought apartments in Trump Tower. There was a guy who came all the way back in 1984. Trump's been doing this forever, with literally $3 in his pocket, and somehow bought $6 million worth of condos from Trump. Okay.
Weird.
I wonder if he was connected to Russian oligarchs, even all the way back then. I mean, can you imagine? Now the Russian oligarchs, of course, run the place in Russia, and so there's a bunch of criminals that funnel their money through here. A guy like Trump says, "Well, they're buying my apartments. What do I care if they're laundering it?"
Actually, since you mentioned Trump, I looked further into this story because obviously that Trump angle is an interesting one, especially considering the fact that many of those purchases were for properties that were valued far lower than what the money launderers had purchased them for, right? So like they spent millions more than they needed to on a property that was valued at millions less. But I also found out that in one of the National Defense Authorization Act bills, there was a provision in there. It was a bipartisan provision that had some laws, like some regulations in regard to money laundering in US real estate. And remember, Trump really made a point to veto that bill.
Yeah.
And so that provision, I didn't see any reporting on that provision until recently.
Yeah, in fact, that's mentioned in these stories about how the Trump years, they took whatever restrictions that were in place out. Why? Because the president was a well-known money launderer. He didn't want provisions against money laundering in there. Look, if you're unclear about, wait, why would they pay Trump more for his properties than they're worth? Sometimes by a lot. Because if you stole, make up a number, $10 million, you stole it, you didn't earn it anyway, right? You've got to pay a certain amount to the person that's cleaning the money for you, so they don't ask questions and they don't report you to the authorities as they're supposed to. So Trump would never report them to the authorities. You give him $10 million when the apartments are only worth 8 or 6. Oh, he's gonna take that money real quick, and he ain't ever gonna report you to the authorities, even if you got no money in your pocket. And so those Russian mafia guys in the old Soviet Union then turned into Russian oligarchs in Putin's Russia. And look, guys, the other two reasons why you should be furious about this story is all of these international criminals come to America because they think America's lawless.
Yeah.
If you're rich, you can do anything in America. Oh, the poor and the middle class, they got no chance, right?
Totally, yep.
But if you're rich, America will let you get away with anything. There's no laws there at all for the rich. And so, and then the last part of it is they buy all the homes, and that actually does trickle down, right? Whether they're buying
in a bad way.
Yeah, whether they're buying expensive homes or now they're buying middle class homes because they want to hide their assets even better. Well, what does that do? It drives up home prices. Because now they've reduced the supply, they've increased the demand, and they're willing to pay higher than market value because they're trying to clean up their dirty money.
Bingo.
So now we all have to pay more.
That's right.
Because criminals like Donald Trump thought, hey, I'm gonna make more money. Suckers that are in the middle class, if they get hurt by it, what do I care? They're suckers and losers in Trump parlance.
That's exactly right. So it hurts in two different ways. Number one, the bad guys get away with the bad behavior, right? Because we're not just talking about Russian oligarchs. We're also talking about drug traffickers. We're talking about child sex traffickers. We're talking about the worst people on the planet easily laundering their money in the United States. And members of Congress know it. Obviously, the executive branch knows it. They're not doing enough about it. In fact, in regard to what Biden proposed, it doesn't go nearly enough. I'm gonna go to the last graphic here. The Congressional Transparency Act provides a virtual GPS for launderers to legally avoid its reach. No registration with the database is required for companies that have more than 20 full-time employees, more than 5 million in gross receipts or sales, and operate at a physical US location. Why are we offering carve-outs to money launderers? Why? Right now, that's That's the Congressional Transparency Act. But in regard to what Biden is proposing, that doesn't go far enough either, right? There's always a loophole, there's always a carve out. And you gotta ask, why are these people who are supposed to be representing us, who are supposed to be keeping us safe, right? Who are supposed to be representing our best interests, why are they going out of their way to propose weak sauce legislation or regulations that offer loopholes and carve outs to the worst people on the planet? Why?
I can tell you, mystery solved rather easily. So this is bipartisan, by the way. Trump just happens to be a flagrant and flamboyant example of the money laundering in America and then gutting the money laundering laws when he's in charge. But Democrats do it too. So the guy who is the clearest example is Andrew Cuomo. When he was governor of New York, and we reported this for you guys years ago, and that was one of the few good stories the New York Times did about him. They showed how he gutted the laws that would have the realtors show you who's actually buying the properties. There's tons of empty properties all over New York, and especially in Manhattan. It's criminals from all across the world. And guys, don't get obsessed with Trump or Russia. As you saw, there's the leader of Kenya, leader of the Czech Republic. It's from everywhere. Oh, there's Turkish mafia in there. You name it, it's in there.
Let me give you one specific example. In one instance, $100 million embezzled from Kuwait's Department of Defense was used to buy a 157-acre Beverly Hills property known as the Mountain. So it's all sorts of people all over the world, okay?
Yes.
Continue.
And as Trump said about the people from the Gulf, including Kuwait and the Saudis, he said, they pay me $30-40 million an apartment. Why wouldn't I like them? He's not gonna ask questions, but back to Cuomo. So Cuomo gutted the laws, let them cheat. Now why? Why would a Democrat let them cheat? Because his top donors were real estate interests. So guys, bribery is the source of all corruption in America. When we allowed legalized bribery, where the Supreme Court said you can give campaign donations, unlimited campaign donations to politicians, they all became criminals. Not overnight, but I explained in my book, justicecomingbook.com, you can get it there, how it happened, exactly how it happened. And slowly, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party was overnight. The Democratic Party took a little while. And eventually they were like, well, do you want the money or don't you want the money? The ones with the money win, the ones without the money don't win. So they have all started taking bribes because they became legal. And after they became legal, guys like Andrew Cuomo are like, what am I, a sucker? I want more power. And so he got reelected. The media almost never challenged him except that one story. And he had his own corruption committee, and he shut it down when they started investigating what? His own real estate donors. I swear to God, you could look it up, okay? Because that's a ton of money in real estate. So they're funneling a small proceeds to the corrupt politicians so they can get away with all these crimes.
It's disgusting. All right, well, we got to take a break. When we come back, though, ProPublica has an in-depth piece regarding a judge in Tennessee who seems to get a kick out of imprisoning as many children as possible. We've got that story and more when we come back.
All right, back on TYT. First Amendments, Two Strong Turks says nobody's born a Muslim or a Christian or anything else. We're all born atheists. It's a funny way of putting it, but I know what they mean by born Muslim, born in a Muslim background. I was, by the way, Obama wasn't. but you're not wrong either. Dragon with a Girl Tattoo says it's not a coincidence Trump is in real estate. Good point. If you're gonna go corruption, real estate in America is a great place to do that. There's also wonderful people in real estate. It's a mixed bag, obviously. Jazz Mavis said, bring your greed to the USA, home of greed. That actually makes a ton of sense. We are home with greed, and that's why all the money launderers in the world come to us. Peter Hamby said, I cannot mention how much the cinema cost to make her listen. That's of course his daily haiku. I don't know about that.
I'm glad that Bart has that on the ready.
Okay. They're haikus. Haikus are tough. All right, Big T, the pyro guy, says, didn't anyone else catch Pelosi said they plan on cutting back the years to cut the cost? That, in my opinion, is the way to go. I'm all for that. Thanks for pointing that out. Yes, I mean, in that word salad that she had, that was the essence of what she was saying, and that's what we're in favor of. I would much rather have 6 years of complete funding for all those programs than 10 years of funding for only half those programs. So, and that's what progressives suggested, but she couldn't clearly explain it. If she explained it that way, then you get all the programs you want. You get the lower drug prices, you get the child care you want, and all the recharging stations for the electric cars, and on, all these wonderful provisions. You get them all. We just get it for a less time, and then it's 6 years. By the way, there's also logic in it. 6 years later, if we hate it for some reason, we were wrong, and turns out we don't like it, then you don't have to renew it. But if we loved it, it's supposed to be a democracy, then we renew it. Okay, Hall Pass writes in, Nancy Pelosi stutters and stammers, as most corporate Democrats do, because they don't believe in what their constituents want, so they're struggling to spit out their lies and not to let the truth slip. They don't care beyond donors. See, that's a good point. When I just blast away on my opinions, I don't have to double check because I actually mean it. Whereas before she speaks, she has to double check every time. What did my donors approve? What didn't they? What am I supposed to be pretending to be in favor of? That's why lying is exhausting. You got to keep track of all the lies. It'll wear you out. N says, why can't it be emphasized that it's an investment into the country? It's not like it's nearly 2 trillion. F-35 jets where it's just wasted money. But of course, Pelosi and everyone else would defend that. It's a great point. Blue Dream Gaming says, love TYT. Your excellent coverage of the news makes it almost too easy to stay up to date with things. You're all fighters for progress. Thank you. Well, thank you. You make that possible with your donations and your membership and all of that. In fact, Rob says, TYT, love you guys. RNC plus DNC equals crime syndicate. Thank you for being generous, Rob. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. By the way, already we got a hype train on Twitch because of the Pocky Chip challenge. You guys, I'm thinking of cheating, man. Not that I wouldn't eat it. If I say I'm gonna eat it, I'm definitely gonna eat it. But I want to crank up the number to 7,000 subscribers or something. I will see if I'm allowed to cheat. But they're already.
Turkish, you like spicy food. You can handle it.
Not me. I don't like it at all.
Really? You don't like spicy?
No. I don't like spicy food at all. Oh. So that Pocky Chip is gonna do serious damage. Okay, so anyways, I guess keep it going.
That's why I said no when I was asked if I'd participate in that.
See?
I know myself, okay? I know
Whereas
myself.
I'm the one ready to throw myself on a Pocky Chip even if I hate it. Okay, all right, go ahead, Casper.
A new report by ProPublica finds that the juvenile court judge in Rutherford County, Tennessee, seems to get a kick out of imprisoning children for crimes that don't even exist, and also for things like truancy and swearing. So this judge, Judge Donna Scott Davenport, actually also broke the law herself several times in the way she conducts her own job. In fact, in 1998, Judge Donna Scott Davenport became a juvenile court referee akin to a judge. The following year, Rutherford County violated federal law 191 times by keeping kids locked up too long. So not only is she imprisoning children for nonsensical reasons, she's also keeping them in these juvenile detention centers, which are basically prisons for kids, longer than she's allowed to under Tennessee state law. Now, here's an instance from 2016 that actually did grab national attention, but unfortunately not enough attention to ensure that she's no longer a judge. So 3 police officers went to Hobgood Elementary School in Tennessee and arrested 4 black girls. One girl fell to her knees, another threw up. Police handcuffed the youngest, an 8-year-old with pigtails. Their supposed crime? Watching some boys fight and not stopping them. So in that case, police ended up arresting 11 kids in total, using a charge called criminal responsibility. The district attorney for Rutherford County confirmed to the police investigators that there's no such crime as criminal responsibility. So luckily that case later was settled for almost $400,000, but keep in mind, there were innocent children sent to a juvenile detention center, arrested, handcuffed, and sent to a juvenile detention center for failing to stop 2 boys from fighting. Insane, absolutely insane. But the story gets crazier, Cenk.
Yeah, so this story is just horrific in 18 different ways. And even some of the cops that were arresting the kids started crying because they're like, why are we doing this? And it was a couple of black cops who one of them just actively said, we should not be arresting these kids. And the white cop basically steamrolled him and said no, and he put the kids in handcuffs. But it's thousands of cases like this. So you're gonna be shocked to find out they mainly did it to poor black kids, okay? But they did it to poor white kids too. But black kids more disproportionately. But this one white kid, he's got bipolar disorder. They put him in there and then they put him in solitary confinement.
Oh my God.
And then afterwards, his medication stops working. It's not even like, then he had suicidal thoughts before. He tried to take his own life a couple of times afterwards. Solitary confinement is torture. The lowest level solitary confinement they had for these kids was 12 hours a day. And at level 8, it was indefinite solitary confinement. And they would even board up the windows so they couldn't see the other kids. This is disgusting what they're doing to people. And look, I've told you guys this a lot of times. When we were kids, we used to fight all the time. I grew up in New Jersey. It was a fairly regular occurrence, right? If the kids who fought were arrested, we'd all of our lives would have been ruined. We all would have had criminal records. God knows what would have happened to us in juvenile detention. But now they're arresting the kids who are watching the fight. One of the girls was trying to stop the fight. They arrested her anyway. One of the girls wasn't anywhere near the fight. They arrested her anyway.
It is not their responsibility to intervene and stop the fight. It is not, they're kids, they're freaking kids. They're kids, period. But this woman, this judge, is an advocate for detaining kids for the most insane, nonsensical reasons. For something as simple as cursing. She literally has a basket full of belts in the courtroom. So if someone shows up in her courtroom without wearing a belt to keep their pants up, she forces them to wear a belt. Insane, psychopath. This woman failed the bar 4 times for good reason, clearly. She is not fit to be a judge. In fact, why don't we learn a little more about Judge Davenport? Let's give you a little taste of who she is. Watch this video.
I mean, being detained at our facility is not a picnic at all. It's not supposed to be. It's a consequence for an action. I've locked up one 7-year-old in 13 years, and that was a heartbreak. But 8 and 9-year-olds and older are very common now.
She also, as I mentioned earlier, failed the bar 4 times. There's more details on that in this next clip.
When did you first take the bar?
I waited till 87, I believe, a year after I graduated to take it.
Okay. And then, I guess didn't pass that.
No.
Were there any other attempts in between that first
Yes.
time? How many times did you take the bar?
I passed on the 5th time.
She passed on the 5th time, 9 years after she graduated from law school. And by the way, she locks up more kids than any other county in Tennessee. Let me give you the details on that. Under Davenport, Rutherford County locked up a staggering 48% of children whose cases were referred to juvenile court. The statewide average is just 5%. Take a look at this visual that compares Rutherford County to all the other counties in Tennessee. And you see that giant, number, 48%, compared to much smaller numbers in other counties. And by law, by the way, children held for such minor acts as truancy were to appear before a judge within 24 hours and be released no more than a day after that. I'm sorry, no one should be imprisoned for truancy. No one, okay?
It's insane.
I'm sorry, especially now, when the economic situation is so dire for so many parents. You got two parents busting their butts, sometimes one parent busting his or her butt, working nonstop in several different jobs, part-time jobs, just to make ends meet. Sometimes kids end up being truant as a result of that. Parents have no support. To then lock kids up for truancy is ridiculous. But let me give you more of what's been going on. So the newspaper interviewed Davenport, who estimated half of those violations occurred because a kid had cursed her or someone else. For cursing, she said, she typically sentenced kids to 2 to 10 days in jail.
Okay, hold on. Now this is really important. Now I don't care that she failed the bar, but she poses as someone who's high and mighty. She has a radio show that she does every week where she brags about how many kids she locks up, okay?
It's disgusting.
And because she's such an important judicial figure in this county. But wait a minute, you're not allowed by law to lock up kids for truancy past 24 hours. She does it for sometimes up to 10 days, as Anna just told you. Why? Because they disrespected her and cussed at her.
Yeah, in fact, she says
But that's illegal, but that's illegal. No, you can't pretend to be a great judge while bragging about things that are illegal. So
she brags about breaking the law. In fact, in response to that, she said, was I in violation? Heck yes. But am I going to allow a child to cuss anyone out? Heck no. Where are the free speech activists? Where are the lovers of American freedom? Is this freedom? Is this freedom? I want to know. Is this the land of the free? Locking up kids for cursing, really? That's the land of the free.
And guys,
and of course there's a financial motive involved, which I'll get to.
Yeah, so you can say, hey, look, we want good decorum in court. No problem, okay? And there's different ways that you can enforce that. 10 days in prison for a child when it is against the law. How about we imprison you for breaking the law? Oh, no, I get it. The law is only for poor people and for little kids that you can take your vengeance out on. I don't know what her psychological issues are, but she loves locking up those kids. But if you said to her, how about we lock you up for breaking the law? Which you brazenly admitted, right? You'd be like, oh, how dare you? I am an important judicial figure in this county. She says she's the mother of the county. What kind of a sick mom would do this to her? It's 10 times the rate of the rest of Tennessee. It's not like we're talking about a super progressive place. And so, of course, there's a financial issue here. But speaking of belts, one of the officers, one of the guards at this horrific detention center used a belt on one of the kids.
Yep.
And this judge highly recommended her.
Yep.
So, but she's the moral one. She's the moral one.
So, final part of this, I want to talk a little bit about the detention center itself, because there are some interesting details there. So first off, she has decided to participate in this like cheery and also incredibly disgusting advertisement for the detention center. She refers to it as state of the art, like bragging about it. Let's take a look at that.
Built in 2008, the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center is a 43,094 square foot facility that is located in the heart of Tennessee. Just minutes from Interstate 24 in Murfreesboro, the center is easily accessible with plenty of lodging and restaurant choices to choose from. Location, check. Facility, check. Employees, check. Programs, check. With all this going for us, there's no question why we have contracts for the detention of juvenile detainees.
Oh, wow. So my kid can get imprisoned for cursing or for truancy. And if they happen to end up in this juvenile detention center, there's an unlimited restaurant options in the area. What the hell was that?
That was a literal ad for Rutherford County will lock your kids up. And guess what? They get paid for it, so that's why they do it.
The county gets $175 a day for each kid they jail.
When she first started, the budget for juvenile detention in that county was a little under $1 million. It's now $3.69 million because they keep arresting more and more kids. 48% of the kids that go in front of her, she's like, lock them up, $175 a day. Hey, all Tennessee, we'll arrest all your kids. White, black, poor, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, you can't be rich because the rich are moral. The judges are moral. But your poor kids, they're immoral. The kids, as they're arresting them, there's stories, they're vomiting all over the floor. They're so scared, they don't know what to do with it.
They're elementary school kids.
She bragged, you saw it in the tape about arresting 8 or 9-year-olds. Have you ever had an 8 or 9-year-old? Arresting them for watching a fight? I mean, I told you the members in one of the bonus episodes about the Buford fight. The whole junior high school watched me fight Buford, right? They would have to lock up the entire junior high school. She would have probably loved it. She'd be like, oh, look at that money. And she would have gone and bragged about it on the radio. I locked up the whole junior high. We made so much money that day, right? And so as the stories of the kids though was so heartbreaking. They're handcuffing the kids. People are screaming, don't handcuff them, don't handcuff them. The principal's weeping, some of the cops are weeping. The kids are absolutely hysterical.
Why is she not fired? Why is she not fired?
She works today.
She needs to go, period, okay? I mean, the case that we're talking about was in 2016. It grabbed national headlines. Why is she employed as a judge? Making these decisions. And by the way, when we're talking about juvenile courts, we're not talking about the type of situation you'd run into with a jury. She gets to make the decisions unilaterally.
She said, I should be paid 12 times as much because I act as the jury too. You know, she gets like $176,000 a year for locking those kids up. That's her salary. She's up for re-election, and if she wins, she's gonna get another 8 years. By that time, she might lock all your kids up in Tennessee.
She keeps getting reelected because she's unopposed. No one's running against her, right? In fact, there was one situation where someone did run against her, and then it turned out that person was abusing children. And then after that, she didn't have to worry about running for reelection because no one ran against her.
I'm just gonna say one last thing here. Look, we're trying to protect the kids of Tennessee. Do you care about your kids or don't you care about your kids? And so these people that come in and pretend to be the most moral, now some of the best people I've ever met are religious people, Christians, Muslims, Jews, etc., that don't go around bragging about it. They just go do amazing work and they don't tell anybody. And the community knows them, the folks that they're helping knows them. But the worst people I've ever met are the ones that are going around moralizing in public. They're bragging to everybody about how moral they are. They are the most immoral people almost every time. And here she is, bragging every day, every week on the radio. I lock 8 and 9-year-olds up. I lock them all up and I get paid for it. It's disgusting. She's one of the least moral people I have ever heard about.
All right, well, we gotta take a break, but when we come back, my favorite Charlie Kirk video of all time. You do not want to miss it. It's a lot of fun. We'll be back.
Sexual anarchy.
So a lot of progressive office holders are doing something fun. I like fun. They're doing the last 2 years in 2 minutes. Okay, we're gonna try it here. First, I wanna let you guys know about the years before that. Hey, remember we started the Just Democrats here on the Young Turks. It was officially launched on our air, basically by you guys. And then we featured AOC, we featured Cori Bush, and Ro Khanna became the first ever Just Democrat incumbent, all on the Young Turks. Now, the last 2 years have been a spectacular follow-up to that. So let's put the 2 minutes on the clock and do this. Young Turks got to start back in 2002, and I think we've been an important part of the progressive movement ever since. What we mainly do is amplify the progressive voice and candidates out there, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Right now, we're currently #1 most engaged news politics network online, beating CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, all of them. We're #1 in total minutes watched. That means not only the number of people watching, but how long they watch. We just crossed 20 million followers and 500 million monthly views. Now, why? That's because actually the country's progressive. It's 2/3 progressive, and you guys have allowed us to be your voice, and we're incredibly thankful for that. So what did we do with that voice? Well, let's look at 2019. We went all over the country talking to you guys and the candidates. So we were in Miami, we were in Detroit, we were in Houston, and we were in Iowa. In fact, we were all over Iowa. You guys were all over Iowa, and all of the candidates saw you guys. We had wonderful people speaking, like the one and only Nina Turner at our rallies. Bernie Sanders stopped by, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. We interviewed almost everyone on the campaign trail, with the exception of Biden and Buttigieg. And we held them accountable. We even did a progressive economic pledge, and so many wonderful people signed on to that. Bernie Sanders, Warren, Marianne Williamson, AOC, the entire squad, Justice Democrats, and so many others. Now, on top of all that, we started a show called The Conversation, where we featured so many progressive thinkers, writers, and candidates. And one of the candidates we featured in 2019 was Jamal Bowman. Here comes Jamal Bowman. Then we had an amazing 2020. We hired a climate reporter. Damage Report passed 500,000 subscribers. Young Turks passed 5 million subscribers. We're getting the message out to more and more people. Bernie Sanders comes on in the heat of the primary. He comes on after the election to say what we're gonna do for the future. And then Marie Newman wins. Jamal Bowman wins. Cori Bush wins. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here comes Nina Turner. Hello, somebody. And she's running for Congress, and she comes on the Young Turks first. On election week, we had nearly 2 million hours of viewing. We're #1 destination for progressives. You made all that happen. This is amazing, and thank you for those 2 years. What, I went past 2 minutes? Of course!
Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown, but today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
Sexual anarchy.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna's got the news.
All right, well, conservatives like Charlie Kirk believe that they're experts in regard to when human life begins, and they claim it begins at the moment of conception. Now, that's an interesting take considering the fact that they seem to be completely clueless about various aspects of female anatomy or the viability of embryos or fetuses outside the mother's womb. Now, Kirk might agree with that now that he got owned with Ben Glebe. Watch this video.
Do you truly, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that this is a human being? This?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt?
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus. Without a doubt, a dolphin fetus is a human being. This is a human fetus. This is how simple it is. But quite different. Dolphin. You You just confirmed that a dolphin, in life, you confuse dolphins for human babies often. So let me ask you a question. You go to SeaWorld and you're like, someone's got human babies in that aquarium.
Okay, I love that video. That was amazing. We're gonna show you the conversation in a little more context in just a second, but I wanna show you what a human embryo, because it's 6 weeks. It's not even a fetus yet, it's an embryo. This is what a human embryo looks like. And I would venture to say that is not the same thing as a viable human being or baby outside of the mother's womb, okay? By the way, human fetuses and embryos clearly also have tails. That is a human, that is what a human looks like. Cute baby, cute child, okay? Stock photo of an adorable child. Very different from a non-viable embryo, which in the state of Texas, you are not able to get aborted because of their anti-abortion, anti-reproductive rights law. So yeah, I love that side by side. We're just trying to help. We're trying to help the Charlie Kirks of the world understand the difference between a non-viable embryo and an actual living, breathing human being who typically gets neglected or trashed by conservatives who want to deny certain social services to them if they happen to be poor.
Yeah, no, you got to give Ben Glebe all the credit in the world for one of the best owns I've ever seen. And Charlie, you step right into that, man. Like everybody knows, like if you're in law school, the thing they teach you is don't ask a question you don't know the answer to. If you're in the middle of a debate and somebody asks you a question, you should be really careful, right? And he's like, oh, absolutely, that's definitely a human.
Oh, his face. It's my favorite part.
That face, though, that face. Okay, that's a rare moment he had his hair combed at least. But now Glebe has owned them so hard that from now on, whenever you see an embryo, even they're gonna hesitate. They're like, oh, is that a dolphin one? Is that a different animal? Because you're not really sure because they all look very similar. You know why? Because they're embryos. They're not actually fully grown humans or dolphins, which look very different. And so, look, you can go back further and you can go all the way to the sperm and the egg, and they don't look human either. Okay, so this idea of like, well, I mean, we used to look like that at some point. So we've done this a million times. Is every sperm sacred? Was were they right in life of Brian?
It is, like I've said before, it is convenient that to them life begins at the moment of conception, right? That's very convenient to male conservatives. Now again, for me, and also for the Supreme Court that ruled in Roe v. Wade, the important aspect of reproductive rights has to do with viability of the fetus, right? Is the fetus viable outside the womb? Then you can talk about limiting access to abortions, right? And I think that in that case, that's a reasonable ruling. But when you're having a conversation about a non-viable embryo, no, it's really about controlling women and forcing them to carry out or carry to term a pregnancy that they don't want. It's about punishing women who might have engaged in sexual activity that they did so for pleasure, right? Did so for fun. How dare you? You're not allowed to do that in the United States. We need, or in a lot of other right-wing countries. We need to punish, we need to control. That's what it's really about. But Cenk, the fuller context doesn't make Charlie Kirk look any better. So I wanted to also provide that to be fair to Charlie Kirk, if you want to see it that way. Now let's watch.
Question, do human beings have tails?
I'm not exactly sure the essence of the question.
Do human beings have tails? Do you have a tail?
You know, I have never met anyone with a tail. I'm not exactly sure the
Exactly, but fetuses have tails. Kind of proves that at that phase, they are not a human being. They got tails. Humans don't have tails, we're not dinosaurs. Let me even show you a photo if I may, okay? Do you truly, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that this is a human being? This?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt?
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus.
So let me.
Without a doubt, a dolphin fetus is a human being. This is a human fetus. Look how similar they look, but quite different. Dolphin. You just confirmed that a dolphin, in life, do you confuse dolphins for human babies often?
So let me ask you a question.
You go to SeaWorld and you're like, someone's got human babies in that aquarium. Get the human babies out of the aquarium.
Well, you labeled it as a human fetus.
No,
so
I
you
did not.
That dishonestly.
No, I did not.
He didn't label it as a human fetus.
I went back and rewatched the tape just to be sure. He never said it was human, and you can go back and watch it. But Kirk at that point is so owned that there's no way out of that. I mean, he's in a cul-de-sac. That's a dead end that you're not gonna be able to get out of.
Nope.
Protect the dolphin embryos. Glebe owns people so hard, I wind up having to get into fights for him. I'll talk about this in the bonus episode for the members.
Maybe.
We did this.
Maybe he will.
Yeah, we did this segment where Ben Glebe went into that restaurant in Orange County that doesn't allow masks or anyone vaccinated, and he put on a mask and they assaulted him. And we did a segment saying, "Oh, Ben did a great job." The lawyer for that restaurant saw me somewhere in LA and nearly assaulted me. He's like, "How dare you?" And Ben was making such a great point in that segment too. He's like, "Am I not allowed to protect people? Are you hitting me because I'm trying to protect people?" And so that then their lawyer sees me and he's like, "You won't be safe in the streets."
He said that to you?
Yeah. And I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean? Tell me exactly what you mean."
Doesn't sound like a very good lawyer.
Well, I mean, is it surprising that he represents these clowns?
Yeah.
So, but in this particular case, guys, the reason why it was such a good own is because it's true. The embryo is not an independent human being, and you all know it.
Yeah.
If you took that out of the womb, it wouldn't survive, it wouldn't be a human being, it wouldn't be anything, because it's not an independent human, and you all know it. So what's the actual point? The actual point is to control women's bodies and to put, not your morality, because it doesn't have anything to do with morality, to have ownership and control over other human beings. And these are the people that claim that their #1 goal is freedom.
I'm gonna have the last word on this, because while you're right, I actually think the reason why it's such a great own is because the very people who happen to be the biggest loudmouths against reproductive rights know nothing about human anatomy, know nothing about pregnancy, know nothing about zygotes, embryos, fetuses. They just love hearing themselves talk, knowing that it's very likely, especially in red states, to take rights away from living, breathing human beings, actual women. And they have no leg to stand on when at the same time, they push out disinformation, meaning they're knowingly putting out false information that gets people killed during COVID. They don't care about human lives. They're hypocrites, they're ignorant, they're incompetent, and everything they do is always politically motivated, and it's disgusting because there's a price to pay for it. All right, you're letting me have the last word, so we'll move on.
I had a couple points to make, but you said last word.
All right, we gotta move on. In fact, we gotta take a break. So why don't we do that, and then we'll share with you the battle of the dumbest.
There's a human in there.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go to Twitch as I normally do around now, but I gotta give you Kofefe 19's comment in the member section. Does child support also start from 6 weeks onward? Excellent question. All right, men of Texas, you say that life starts then. You started ready to start paying child support at 6 weeks? All of a sudden, they're slowly backpedaling out of the room. Backpedal, backpedal, backpedal. I love that, smartest audience in the world. I love it. Okay, let's go to Twitch. First of all, now they've got like my face emoji with the chip, and like this thing's taking on a life of its own. I don't know why I allowed any of this. I am not going to like that chip at all. I'm going to have a very poor reaction to it. Okay, but you know what would be awesome is if we got stuck somewhere between 6,200 and 6,600. So Brett and other guys had to do it, and I didn't. So let's go 6,599. Those are subscribers on Twitch, of course, we're trying to get to by the end of October. All right, Natty Ice writes in, 6-month anniversary, hashtag Bezos Bucks. Thank you, Cenk and Anna, for bringing us much needed truth, honesty, and clarity in the world of muddled news. Always looking fabulous, even in a passionate rage. Why, thank you. All right, Captain Coyote writes in, 2 months of sending my Bezos Bucks. Keep up the great reporting, thank you. AWiz91 writes in, I use this subversary to say the invitation to come take over Canada is still open, TYT. Canada's ready and waiting with open arms. Come. Well, look, your best case was made, I think, just yesterday. Yep, when you guys explained that Canada secretly has a second Thanksgiving. They only have one, but we have one. And you guys do a surprise one earlier than us. It's a slightly unacceptable, except I kind of like it. It gives me a chance to do 2 Thanksgivings. I might do it a tradition. It's Canadian Thanksgiving. I got to go to Vancouver. I got to go to Vancouver and have turkey. What can I do? Okay, so we'll see how that goes. And yes, by the way, we would love to do TYT Canada and TYT every country. I'm gonna need a little bit more resources, but hey, it's okay. We're gonna do Pocket Chip Challenge, and then afterwards, we're sure we'll have enough. Anyway, link to Hylian Dragon writes in, eat the chip, Cenk. Fuel your progressive rage with spiciness.
Just make sure you have some milk and don't drink water. Water is gonna make it worse. You gotta have milk.
No, I saw other people doing it. It's a disaster. I mean,
yeah, you're gonna be hurting.
Yeah, and there's a challenge. You're supposed to not have the milk for a certain amount of time. I've got a strategy, but hopefully I won't have to use it. Anyways, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to say, hopefully I get to do it. All right, Sofa King says, for the spicy chips and Cenk's sweaty face. Now we're talking about my sweaty face? All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT. By the way, because of the Pocket Chip Challenge, and you guys are gonna make me and Brett and a whole bunch of us eat these Pocket Chips and destroy our mouths and our taste buds forever. Drew in Georgia gifted 2 subs. Blue Tech, the Belgian Dragon, gifted 10 subs, and then 10 more subs, saying I need to see this. Okay.
Damn.
Oh well. All right, twitch.tv/TYT. By the way, some of you can get it for free if you have Amazon Prime. So go to tyt.com/prime to figure out how to do that. All right, Casper.
All right, well, we've got the battle of the dumbest. Let's start off with Alan West, who is planning on running in the gubernatorial race in Texas. He's trying to unseat the current governor, Greg Abbott. He recently got hospitalized with coronavirus, and of course, he is not an advocate of the vaccine. In fact, he has pushed against vaccine mandates, and apparently his experience being hospitalized changed absolutely nothing. In fact, after receiving treatment in the hospital, West said this, I can attest that after this experience, I'm even more dedicated to fighting against vaccine mandates. Instead of enriching the pockets of big pharma, and get this, and corrupt bureaucrats and politicians, we should be advocating the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy, which of course is given by fairies and unicorns and not by the pharmaceutical industry. What? Okay.
I love how they celebrate their dumbness. Like, you didn't think that one through? Wait, I wonder where these other drugs come from that I'm promoting. And no one told you on your team? Alan, awkward. They're all made by pharmaceutical companies.
So patients can in fact get monoclonal treatments, but they are actually far more expensive than the free coronavirus vaccine that people can get. So pharmaceutical giants like GlaxoSmithKline manufacture the monoclonal antibody injections. And again, if you don't have the right insurance or if you have no insurance and you end up hospitalized and get that treatment, you're gonna be spending quite a bit of money, possibly going into bankruptcy as a result of that. So great job, Alan West. By the way, if Republicans allegedly are so concerned with Big Pharma, interesting how they never advocate for allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices directly with pharmaceutical companies, thus allowing for lower drug prices in the country. Weird how they never advocate for those types of policies. They only claim to dislike pharmaceutical companies when they're pushing out anti-vaccine messaging. Now, I want to give you more of his anti-vax tirade, which later Governor Greg Abbott decides to one up. Let's watch.
And one of the things that I've learned, there's so many other protocols out there that we should be recommending to people. This should not be about forcing people to take a certain shot, but we should be offering and making sure that people are aware of all of these protocols that are out there. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be committed to doing. And I want to make sure that the Texas Medical Board, Texas Nursing Board, Texas Pharmacy Board never interfere and get in the way of what's best for you and your relationship with your doctor and your body. That's the key thing that I've learned. And I just want to let you know, do not fear COVID. And just remember, as it says in Joshua chapter 1:9, be strong and of good courage. For the Lord their God shall never leave you nor forsake you. Put everything in his hands and he will carry you through it.
700,000 Americans have died from coronavirus. You should fear COVID, especially if you are not vaccinated. The fact that this is a politically motivated disinformation campaign is pretty sickening. Because look, there's I mean, it's confusing for a lot of people, and I don't blame them for being confused. They're getting conflicting messaging thanks to these self-interested narcissists who are pushing out false information for their own political careers. It's sick. And so what does Governor Greg Abbott do? Well, he sees that. He's terrified of losing the gubernatorial race from a right-winger who's further to the right than he is. So he decides to one-up Alan West, releasing a statement indicating that there is a ban on vaccine mandates in the state of Texas. He says no entity in Texas can compel receipt of the COVID-19 vaccine by any individual, including an employee or a consumer who objects to such vaccination for any reason of personal conscience, based on a religious belief, or for medical reasons, including prior recovery from COVID-19. I hereby suspend all relevant statutes to the extent necessary to enforce this prohibition. Good job, Governor Greg Abbott. Not enough people, tens of thousands of people have died in Texas. Apparently not enough for Abbott, especially when it comes to ensuring the future of his own political career.
You know, they're having a dumb off. And if you disagree with 99% of the scientists in the world, you don't get to claim that you're smart. Oh, I figured it out, man. Somebody on Facebook told me all the scientists and doctors are wrong. I'm so smart. I know things you don't know. Really? Well, probably not. But when it comes to Alan West, I want to make a couple points. First of all, put on socks and shoes when you're doing a video. Second of all, by the way,
he doesn't want you to come in between him and his wardrobe, Cenk.
I know. Okay. And it's, by the way, we're not mandating it. I'm just saying, do the rest of us a favor. Okay, please take him off the screen. It's bothering me. Okay. Number two, his wife also got COVID because it's highly contagious. She did not need to get hospitalized. You want to know why? Because she's vaccinated. Okay, she's like, yeah, you can do all that gibberish. Okay, I'm gonna go get the vaccine. Oh, look at that, you're in the hospital, I'm not. Anyways, but the most important part is how selfish she is, as usual. I survived, so I don't care about the rest of you. 700,000 of you didn't survive. Maybe you should have prayed harder, right? And I made it, so what do I care? I don't care, look. I'm the only person that exists in the world. They're always like that. Me. If I survive, then I guess everybody's gonna survive. No, you knucklehead, other people have different reactions. There's 700,000 people that are dead under the ground, but they're not me, so why would I care? I'm running a scam here where I'm the one who's gonna be the dumbest, so I know the Republican voters love that. And Abbott's like, not on my watch. I will put dumbness into law, okay? I will not allow you to be smart in the state of Texas. And by the way, but it's a virus, funny enough, that is spread throughout the entire Republican Party.
Absolutely.
So Chuck Grassley in Iowa, he was just so against Trump after the January 6th riots. He said it was extreme, aggressive, and irresponsible. It was unconstitutional actions. He just did an event in Iowa with Trump and proudly took his endorsement. Why? He said, look, I was born at night, but I wasn't born, it wasn't last night. 91% of Republicans in Iowa support Donald Trump. So of course I took his endorsement. They're brazen about it. I mean, Grassley's saying like, of course I don't agree with him. Of course he was trying to do a coup, it was unconstitutional. But what do I care? I want power. I want power no matter how many people it kills, no matter how much it endangers our country. And a lot of people are pretending to be surprised that I guess they're like, oh, even Chuck Grassley?
He's 88.
He's such a principled Republican.
He's 88.
There are no principled Republicans. None, zero. And Anna's right, he's 88, he's running for a 6-year term. He's gonna be 94 or 95 by the time why are you still running? Why are you debasing yourself with things that you know aren't true?
They can't help it.
Because because the greed is insatiable. They've got to have that power, money, and wealth. And mainly it's the power, it's true.
Yeah.
That's why Lord of the Rings is so successful, because they hit on a human truth. The Grassleys and the Abbotts and the Allen West, they endanger their own lives, your life, because of precious, must have power. That right there is the embodiment of the Republican Party today.
The other embodiment of the Republican Party has to do with endless culture wars to distract. So let's go to the latest. DC Comics' newest Superman, John Kent, Clark Kent's son, came out as bisexual in one of their most recent releases, and of course, conservatives are losing their minds about it. Let's take a look at what this is all about.
Superman bisexual DC comic book toy that was announced today. Finally, a place, nowhere to go.
Well, that comes after a gay Aquaman, a bisexual boy Wonder, Robin, and a gender fluid Loki. Call me when they have a gender stable aisle with superheroes whose sexualities we know nothing about. Why are they sexualizing superheroes? You know, I was a Batman and a Superman, Spider-Man kid. I loved those heroes. We just wanted them to get the bad guys, not a venereal disease. Anyway, leave our comic book heroes alone, Laura. We don't want to hear any more about what they do.
This is America. We sexualize everyone and everything, including DC comic characters, Marvel characters. Sexualizing is like as American as apple pie.
Yeah, look,
like
guys.
What?
This is absurd. First of all, we don't need to know about their sexual proclivities, really? Well, we know Superman is dating Lois Lane. They kiss in the movies all the time. It's not like they hid it. So when they were kissing, you had no problem with it. By the way, it's not like this new Superman, which is funny enough, the son of the original Superman and Lois Lane, from a heterosexual relationship, came from somewhere, right?
Was that sexual relationship okay to be part of the storyline?
They never noted it. Funny enough, that was perfectly okay. And is the son who's now bisexual, is he having sex in the comics? Like, wow, secret. No, he did a kiss just like his father kissed Lois Lane. Exactly the same, right? But all of a sudden, they're sexualizing it. Can you believe this? These bisexuals are kissing now in the comics. You remember Spider-Man where he's hanging upside down, the famous kiss, and then Kristen Dunst goes and kisses him in the alleyway. Of course, Iron Man is dating the lady who does Goop or whatever.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyways,
married the Coldplay guy.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Thank you. So look, guys, they hate gay people. They do. That's a fact. I mean, here it is. It's a perfectly normal couple. For us, as normal Americans, we think everybody should be equal. So they say, no, you should not have same-sex marriage. You shouldn't even have same-sex relationships ever publicized in any way, shape, or form. Why? Because they think gay people are not equal to straight people. You know why? They're deeply un-American.
They're also the same people who like lose it over criticism of Dave Chappelle's latest special, right? Which I haven't watched yet. But they'll argue that the left just wants to censor everybody while simultaneously wanting to censor content that they don't like. I mean, you see this kind of behavior on both sides, and I'm really bored by it, to be honest. I really am. It's driving me nuts at this point, right? Look, you wanna know why DC Comics decided to do this? Because there's a market for it. This is capitalism, okay? They're not gonna do it because they're suspecting that they'll take a hit in revenue with this content. They're doing it because they suspect it will bode well in terms of their numbers, right? So that's, you say, let the markets decide. The markets have decided, they like it. So if conservatives don't like it, well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna start regulating these companies, content creators, because you don't like bisexual content, you don't like gay content, you don't like trans content. It's stupid. All of this is stupid, all of it.
Yeah, what are you gonna do, seize their private property? You sound like communists. But Anna's right. So of course they're doing it for money. In fact, the guy who drew the comic book said that he had asked for permission to do it many times before, and they had said no. The executives, the ones that look at the dollars and cents, had said no.
Bingo, yeah.
Now the businessmen said yes. Why? Because younger people buy comic books, and younger people are overwhelmingly progressive. Same exact decision Nike made. Well, now why do you think all of a sudden Republican politicians and Republican talk show hosts like Tucker Carlson are speaking out against big business? Because business has decided, our customers are also gay and bisexual and black and trans and all these different things, and we should sell product to them because they're capitalists. Now, all of a sudden, conservatives don't like capitalism.
No, what's interesting is they of course love capitalism because they have no problem with these corporations skirting their taxes. They have no problem with the terrible treatment of workers. They love all that stuff. They have defended corporations in that regard. But all of their criticism toward corporations is 100% focused on culture war stuff, and that's it. That's all it is. So again, my question to them is, what are you gonna do then? What are they gonna do? Are they gonna ban this are they gonna censor this content?
Yeah.
Like, again, like it's one thing to complain about something, it's another thing to complain and then propose doing something. Like, so what are they gonna do?
But even the complaining, I mean, look at what that son of a bitch said. Now I guess they're promoting venereal diseases. Why? Straight people don't get venereal diseases? What kind of an absurd comment is that? Well, he says that because he wants to put out that stereotype of gay people have sex more often, and hence they're diseased. If you don't get it by now, they hate you if you're gay. They hate you. They say it all the time. Here, let's go to more quotes. Let's go to Mandel, Josh Mandel. He's running for Senate in Ohio. He's a top Republican there. He tweeted out, bisexual comic book for kids. They're literally trying to destroy America. Why would it destroy America?
Wait, hold on. It's literally a comic. Like it's an illustration.
Yes, and even seeing someone gay in comic book form will apparently pulverize the country. That's how much they hate gay people. Just even seeing gay people kiss, they think destroys the country. They hate gay people. Don't let anyone in mainstream media lie to you. 50-50, I can't tell. You can't say Republicans are hateful. No, I'm not saying it, they're saying it. They're saying just two gay people existing and us being able to see it destroys the country. Okay, I got more, but this one's hilarious. Wendy Rogers, a Republican from Arizona, she tweets, Superman loves Lois Lane. Awesome cell phone. Lois Lane, period. Hollywood is trying to make Superman gay, and he is not. It's his son, schmuck. Just rename the new version Superman, get it? So we can all know the difference and avoid seeing it. She put a lisp in there. And she put Lewis instead of Lois Lane, and she doesn't know which Superman it is. All she knows is, I'm a Republican and I despise gay people and trans people. They've been doing this for decades. They are indisputably the party of hate. And last thing, speaking of hate, you should have hated Superman from day one. If you're a Republican, he's an undocumented immigrant. In your parlance, he's an illegal alien. He didn't come with papers. But back when he was white and straight and strong, they loved that illegal alien. Well, all right, Superman. Oh no, he's gay. I hate gay people. Why don't you go make out with Lewis instead? Damn it, I meant Lois. That's who the Republican Party is. If anybody tells you they're not the party of hate, they're just lying.
All right. I mean, look, a judge in Tennessee is literally imprisoning 7-year-olds for things like cursing and truancy. But no, let's focus on cartoons kissing. That's what's destroying America. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. These clowns waste time, distract. They're nonsense. All of them. That's it. We got to take a break. We'll be back.
You guys got to stop gifting subs. Otherwise, I'm going to have to eat that pocky chip. Progressive Change now gifted 5 subs. Barely Funky gifted a sub. R. Wick gifted 5 subs. It keeps going. Rockin' Sin said, thanks for the education. So at least that's a good one. Okay. So Sigma Comics said, we know a thing or two about this topic. Anna's right. It's all about the headlines and dollars. Diversity is important for comic books. Problem is, this is more about headlines than improving diversity.
Yep.
So good point, and that comes from Sigma Comics, and they're, by the way, they're also members. I remember reading your name earlier. R. Stone said, how many possible mental knots can right wing twist themselves into? Jonatron wrote in, use rice or bread to absorb the spicy food. I don't know how to pronounce one thing that he wrote. Milk or water just spreads it around your mouth because it's hydrophobic. Okay, you're way too sophisticated for me. I'm a simple man. Oh, it's spicy, I drink water, okay? No, I know you're supposed to at least do milk, but you say don't even do that. Bread, it sounds like a good idea. I'll have some bread around. Vertigo Lewinsky says, to all my LGBTQ fam, and also Anna for president, okay?
Oh, geez.
Time for a fierce, fabulous, amazing woman to run things.
Oh my God.
Well, I agree with that. I don't know if she should leave here though. I like her running things here, one thing at a time. Vicky Klee says, your life began when you were a twinkle in your daddy's eye. I don't know what we're gonna do about your daddy's eye, but the conservatives will probably lock it up for 9 months or so. Okay, now Christina W. Just became a member by hitting the join button below on YouTube, and so did Mr. Cat 67 Cat. So awesome, love it. Thank you for being part of the Young Turks and helping us to spread the real news, truth, and some positive change in the world. And by the way, if you're watching on a mobile device, just scroll down further to see the join button. Marijuana's number 3 fan says, that's funny already. The best thing to fight spicy food is a peanut butter and honey milkshake.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I know, forget the spicy food, I'll just have that right away.
For real.
Right? And they continue, I'm 10,000% serious, and it needs to be made with real honey and real peanut butter.
Done.
Okay, I mean, but that's complicated, but I hope somebody does that. I would love to have that.
That's not complicated, Jake.
Although, anyway, we'll talk more about it in the post game or in the bonus episode. Anyway, Dragon with the Girl Tattoo said, I'm surprised that judge hasn't locked that embryo up yet. That is really like disastrously funny. Okay. So you guys aren't just the funniest, you're the smartest. I love that. Colorado Blue Blazer Regular said locking up one 7-year-old is pure evil. She's probably on McConnell's shortlist for the next Supreme Court opening. Probably true. Michelle says it's just time for the judge to see the inside of a prison. Guys, don't forget Ilhan Omar's on the show tomorrow, so don't miss that. And Woznia is up after the bonus episode on twitch.tv/TYT. Wozni Lombre's hilarious, smart. You'll love the show. Make sure you check it out. You can now catch a Power Hour with Nina Turner, a part of it on our podcasting network. Check that out too, and obviously that'll be Thursday. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, and you guys are going nuts on the subs on Twitch. St. Galleon just gifted 20 subs. They're trying to make me eat disastrous things. We got a challenge going on Twitch. All right, Casper.
John Gruden is no longer the Raiders coach after emails revealed that he made homophobic, racist, and sexist remarks. Now, in a statement, Gruden said the following: "I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt anyone." Now, the tone of the emails in question certainly seemed like he meant to hurt people, or at least had some pretty awful views of various people. Now, the resignation letter came almost immediately after the New York Times had reported on email exchanges between Gruden and Bruce Allen while Allen was the president of the Redskins, which of course now is known as the Washington football team. They're expected to debut their new name next year. But nonetheless, Gruden's departure from the team comes as other outlets have also reported various details about what he had said in these exchanges, email exchanges between 2011 and 2018. In the Times report, for instance, Gruden also reportedly said that Roger Goodell should not have encouraged Jeff Fisher, who was then coaching the Rams, to draft queers, which was a reference to Michael Sam, a gay player the team added in 2014. Gruden also called for the firing of Eric Reed, who knelt during the playing of the national anthem. By the way, he also referred to Goodell with an anti-gay slur, the F word. You can obviously figure out what that is. Gruden also exchanged emails with Allen and other men that contained photos of women who were only wearing bikini bottoms, according to the Times. One of the photos featured an email reportedly showing 2 Washington football team cheerleaders topless. So this was all going on. I've got more details about the emails and more, but he has decided to step down. My guess is he was probably going to be forced to resign, so he stepped down, claiming that he didn't want to be a distraction.
Yeah, so in the beginning there was just one email JR and I talked about on the show last night, and it was about the Player Association leads lips, and it was a racist stereotype and trope. And at the time I said that they should have a conversation on TV about it, including Gruden, because this is what I say almost every time. Rather than just firing him and having everybody get mad, let's talk it through and see why that's a racist trope, especially if he didn't know it. And I said, well, I don't know who Gruden is. I have no idea if he's a guy who normally thinks this or was an aberration, and he really meant that the guy was lying, as was his defense. And if he didn't mean it, that conversation they have on air would help to educate him and educate other people who don't know about it. And I've suggested that 100 times with Megyn Kelly, etc. Right? Now you see all the emails. No, that he definitely meant it. Context is everything. So he wasn't joking. It wasn't among friends who were gay or black, etc. It wasn't like inside the family. No, it was a bunch of white right-wingers who were in positions of power. At the time, Gruden was on ESPN, but he's joking with the, I think it was the general manager of the Washington football team, okay, who's another deeply Republican right winger, and they're all talking about how gay people are terrible, they shouldn't be allowed in the NFL. Women are terrible, they shouldn't be allowed to be referees. Look, if people like to focus on the things that they think are easiest to defend. Oh, they're passing around naked pictures, that's not our business. Okay, if it was just rando naked pictures, okay, I guess. And that's where context matters. And by the way, people on the left might be mad at me for saying that, right? But it wasn't random people. It was people who worked for Bruce Allen. They worked for the Washington football team. They were cheerleaders there.
Right.
This guy's passing around his employees' pictures. And Gruden's like, oh yeah, way to go. Way to look at your employees naked, right? And right now, the only openly gay player is on the Raiders. And Gruden in the email says you shouldn't draft queers. It's no way. And then Eric Reed, all these people that don't know anything about football say, oh yeah, Colin Kaepernick, he wasn't banned from the league because he was protesting police abuse. He wouldn't have made the league anyway. You guys don't know a damn thing about football. We had quarterbacks throwing 5 interceptions and a half. Colin Kaepernick ran for 181 yards in a legendary game in the playoffs, brought him to the Super Bowl. Anyway, I'm not having that conversation. But Eric Reed is also an indisputably great player. And in the emails, Gruden says he should be fired for kneeling. So He's so deeply racist that he says even great players, if they dare protest the police killing unarmed black men, they should be immediately fired from the league. Nah, he's a terrible guy. Terrible guy. And of course, what's conservative reaction? Almost every conservative online, Don Jr., everyone on Newsmax OAN, they're like, poor John Gruden. He was just being racist and sexist and homophobic like the rest of us. Oh my God, I can't believe they canceled him. How are black players supposed to work with him? How is the gay player supposed to work with him when they know he hates them? That's insane. It's insane. You guys don't get it. So of course, I'll summarize with Charlie Kirk. He says the real reason they had to get rid of John Gruden is because he's a white Catholic conservative male who speaks out.
Except he didn't speak out.
That's exactly right, Anna. He didn't speak out. He just talked to his other right-wing friends, and he's like, now guys, remember the guy he's talking to is in charge of the Washington team. He makes decisions on who they hire. Do they want female referees in their games or don't they? Are they gonna draft a gay player or are they gonna ban every gay player? Because that's apparently what Gruden wants. Are they gonna fire any black player who dares to protest police abuse? That's what Gruden wanted. He wasn't public about that. And when he was caught with that one email, he came out and said, I don't have a racial bone in my body. Nah, he's a giant liar. Screw Gruden. And by the way, if you're defending Gruden based on all those comments, guess what? That means you're a racist and sexist, and you assume that everybody thinks like you, and you say, what's the big deal? Almost every conservative says, what's the big deal? Everybody said that. No, not everybody has said you should throw out every black player who does not favor police abuse and throw out every gay player from the NFL. You guys are monsters. And by the way, yes, it matters the context. So was it joking, not joking, etc. If it was joking, it doesn't make it good, but you could have a conversation around it. If he didn't mean it, you could have a conversation around it, right? But if he meant it, which he most clearly did now that we see the emails, and you think he doesn't have to go, then he should be in charge. Well, he's a white male Catholic. He should be in charge of those people and they should know their roles. I got news for you. That means you're a racist.
All right, let's move on to Tucker Carlson getting bent out of shape over the fact that he keeps getting called out regarding Fox News and its vaccine mandate. So Tucker Carlson addressed comments made by Joe Biden regarding Fox News and the fact that the company has implemented a vaccine mandate. Now, apparently Tucker Carlson doesn't like being called out on that, especially as someone who promotes anti-vaccination narratives. So let's hear him both lie to his audience, but also do so in a very hurt way. You can tell he's very triggered by the statement that Joe Biden made. Let's watch.
Free will and personal autonomy are relics of the old America. They no longer exist in this country, even here at Fox News. Watch.
This I always get a kick out of. Fox News. Fox News requires vaccinations for all employees. Give me a break, Fox News.
Now, to be clear, we just have a show on this channel. That's it. We don't run the company, and we would never presume to speak for the company. But as a factual matter, what Joe Biden just said is completely untrue. It is a lie, period. We can say that with authority since we work here. Every day, literally alone among big media outlets, Fox News defends this country's most basic civil liberties, what we used to refer to as the Bill of Rights. To cynical authoritarians like Joe Biden and the ghouls around him like Susan Rice, that just can't be genuine. They assume the people you see on Fox News must be pretending for money or prestige or ratings or something else. But they are wrong. We are not pretending at all. It's real.
My favorite part of that video is where he's like, it is a lie, period. We can say that with authority because we work here. Because people never lie about the companies they might work for, right? Anyway.
Especially at Fox News.
Especially at Fox News.
Especially when you've admitted in lawsuits that you lie to the audience on a regular basis.
Right, that it's not meant to be taken seriously because you do it for entertainment, not for reporting facts or news. So that's an important element to this as well, but Let's also give you the details about what's really going on over at Fox. A Fox memo last month explained their current system. All employees have been asked to input their vaccination statuses on a secure system, and there will be daily COVID testing for the small group of employees who are not vaccinated or have not provided their vaccination status. They have essentially implemented a vaccine mandate.
Yeah, and you can get around the mandate by doing daily tests, and you must register in their database. That would be a vaccine passport. If you don't have a vaccine passport, they make you get in line and take a test every single day. Now, funny enough, Tucker left out those details. Gee, I wonder why he left out those. Here's another detail he left out. 90% of Fox News is vaccinated. Now, here's one other thing that he's left out consistently the entire time. Tucker, are you vaccinated or aren't you? It's not a hard question, and it's not a controversial question. A lot of Republicans have said, hey, I'm vaccinated, but I believe in freedom, and I believe you should die and not me. Okay, fine, or you could frame it any way you like, but are you vaccinated or aren't you? Why is that a hard question for you? In fact, if you're in Tucker's audience, you should be wondering, why won't Tucker say whether he's vaccinated or not? Isn't that weird? Now you can say, oh, privacy, privacy, but most of the people I know who aren't vaccinated shouted from the rooftops. They're not concerned about privacy. They're like, yeah, I'm proud, I'm American, I believe in freedom. I'm not vaccinated, I'm not gonna get into government tyranny. So Tucker, are you or are you not vaccinated? It's a simple question. And he's never gonna answer it. You know why? Because very, very, very likely he's vaccinated, but he doesn't want you to get vaccinated so he can drive up ratings. That's exactly the reality.
Right. All right, let's end with a fun story. Although I think people are being a little unfair to this gentleman. Okay, all right. Conservatives tend to have a difficult time deciphering what climate change is, what they should do about it. You have Donald Trump who thinks that we should nuke hurricanes and things like that. But one legislative candidate in Virginia, he's running for the state legislature, pondered a little bit of a ridiculous solution. His name is Scott Pio. He says this: I'm curious, do you think the sea level would be lower if we just took all the boats out of the water? Just a thought, not a statement. Now, he was met with a lot of backlash, people mocking him, people being mean to him. This was on Twitter. Blue Virginia quote tweeted him before he managed to delete the tweet and said, this guy's an actual candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates. Yes, this is today's Republican Party for you. Now, later, Pio decided to defend his tweet, even though he had deleted it. He said, when you take things out of bathwater, the bathwater decreases, does it not? Got a lot of hate from your group for asking a question about taking things out of the water. Curious when you stop believing in pure physics. I guess you don't believe in science experiments? Okay, look, I think people should just answer the question calmly, right? Like, yes, to people who know a lot about climate change or know even a little about climate change, like it sounds like a ridiculous solution. But I think the nature of social media, especially Twitter, ends up making people double down on stupid preconceived notions, because it's human nature to have that reaction when people are mocking you or yelling at you, or you know what I'm saying? 100%. So just answer the question, it's okay. Okay, he doesn't seem like a bad, he might be a bad guy in other aspects, but in regard to this, he must have been like laying in the bathtub, took the rubber ducky out and was like, whoa, the water's a lot lower now. And so he wanted to share that possible solution with the world. It's okay to debunk it in a nice way.
Yeah, which we're gonna do in a second, but I actually totally agree with you, Anna.
Yeah.
And that might be ironic, because if you ever see me on Twitter, I love making fun of conservatives.
Oh, I've seen you on Twitter.
Yes, yeah. And I don't mind calling them dumb. I don't mind calling them every name in the world. But I didn't do it with this guy. Why? One, he seemed kind of innocent. He was like, just asking, right? He wasn't in your face about it. Number two, it wasn't hateful.
Right.
Like, if you're hateful, right, I'm coming for you, right? And you can go cry all day long about, oh, Jake was mean to me, I'm an alpha male. Are you? Okay, so if you're not hateful and you're not sure and you're asking, no, I'm not gonna rip into you. And I get it, I understand why he asked, but of course it would be a tiny amount of water. So let's debunk.
So one engineer, Randall Monroe, concluded that the impact on sea levels would be about 6 microns, slightly more than the diameter of a strand of spider silk. But you don't have to worry about the 6 micron sea level drop, Monroe wrote. The oceans are currently rising at about 3.3 milliliters per year due to global warming. At that rate, if you removed every ship from the ocean, the water would be back up to its original average level in 16 hours. So that was that's a good response. Just respond with that, okay?
Yeah. So he didn't know the 6 microns. He didn't, okay, it's not the end of the world, right? But that debunking, by the way, but from an actual scientist shows you, oh my God, climate change is going so rapidly, and we should all be concerned about it. Well, the super last thing, the people who would be most against his proposal, by the way, would be Republican donors. Betsy DeVos and her 10 yachts. She'd be like, take the yachts out of the water, are you crazy? And of course, Joe Manchin, he'd be like, no, not my Manchin yacht. Okay, all right, we gotta go. Amazing bonus episode for the members. And you hit join button below, we'll see you there. Go. Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight